Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're back on Nikke and we're going to be talking about how to progress fast. Now, I'm free to play, still in my first day of play, and I'm into chapter 6, which I'm pretty happy with the progress. If you have better units, you'll go further. If you have worse units, you'll get capped. However, there are things you can do to work through the stuck points that you have. Things we're going to talk about. We're going to quickly talk about spending and like the nature of idle games in itself. We're going to talk about fast rewards, end of day clears, team compositions, and manually fighting enemies that you're stuck on to try and get through them. And because the first thing we're going to talk about is spending, we're going to do a giveaway in this video as well. We'll do a $100 giveaway. All you have to do is be subscribed and leave a comment so that, you know, maybe if I talk about spending and you guys get the idea, at least someone is going to get a chance to do it. Now, basically, same as the previous video. If you haven't seen that one, I'll leave a link in the description. We've got a giveaway going on that one as well. Just be subscribed to the channel, leave a comment, and you'll go into the draw. About a week from now, I'll do the draw and put a community post out with all the instructions on how the winner can get their winnings and get in contact with me. But yeah, guys, like honestly, this game is going so well. I think we're up to 1 million downloads in the game, and it's just been an absolute sick launch to the game, and I hope you guys are having fun. So in this one, the first thing I want to touch on is spending. Now, I know spending isn't going to help free-to-play players progress fast, but I just want to touch on it because you might see other people in the leaderboards and stuff like that, you know, have level 100 characters already. They're into chapter, you know, 8, 9, 10, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Just to understand that unlike turn-based games, idle games, you can get a lot of progress from spending, and even those players will eventually hit a wall. But I think there's packs here where, for instance, this one here, this $8 pack, which I think is a $5 pack. This is in Australian dollars, but this one here is going to give you 30 hours of basically experience of the data sets. So if you buy that, you're already more than a day ahead in those resources than anyone else. Then you've got this $5 pack, which is going to get you a day ahead in your dust, and then this one that's going to get a day ahead in credits. So you can basically get people spending will get vastly ahead of you just because of that. And for me, I don't have an issue with that. I've played idle games for a long time. I just want to stop people getting disheartened by what they see other people doing, because that is a thing. You do get a lot of progress in these games, especially in the early stages. Later stages, it sort of squashes in, but in the early stages, you can get a lot boosted from those packs. Now, I'm not telling you guys you have to buy those packs or anything like that. I just want to explain the principle. I myself am playing through free-to-play, so I will continue to do free-to-play stuff to let you guys know. But I just wanted to get that across because often people come from maybe turn-based games where a free-to-play player, you know, even using like the base 3-star, 4-star units in some of those games, you can keep up with a whale in progression if you have the right team strategies and you strategize well. Whereas in these games, they're just going to squeeze ahead, especially in the early stages. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first. Now, as for how to actually progress quickly and try and, you know, break through walls and stuff like that. Now, something I did yesterday, and I'm not saying you have to do this. This is all dependent upon preference. To me, in these type of games, these idle games, they're a great game to have as a side game or a main game if you want to have a lot of spare time. And, you know, you can play them however you enjoy it, and you don't have to spend currency to get extra resources if you'd rather save and only summon. For me, though, yesterday, because, you know, day one, I wanted to get as much progress as I could with the wipeouts. Now, this was about 4 hours ago, I went and wiped out and did 5 or 6 of these up until it cost 250 gems. Now, I did that to get those extra resources, to get the extra levels into my characters to boost them. That is going to give you faster initial progress. However, you may miss out on a couple summons. To me, the total characters I would have missed out on from that would have been about 3 summons, which, yes, you could have got something good, but I could have just got a bunch of trash. So it's a trade-off I'm willing to make, but I'm not saying you have to do it. That's just why when you look at my free-to-play account and you'll see my levels are a little bit higher, that may have something to do it if my levels are higher than yours. So my whole team is level 55 at the moment. So that is the first thing. You can actually spend your extra diamonds to do extra wipeouts. They do get more expensive. Eventually it got to the point where it was like 300 and I was like, this is just getting too expensive for the amount of resources that I'm getting, but they are going to boost your progression because it is going to give you that extra experience, dust, and credits that you need to level up characters. Now, like I said, when I said I only did this 4 hours ago, I've mentioned this in other videos, but I just want to repeat it, is don't do the wipeout thing until you're either stuck or at the end of the day when you can maximize your rewards, because as you progress through campaign stages, the AFK loot that you get per minute is going to increase, and you really want to maximize that so that you can get the most rewards. So you don't want to be in chapter 1 on the first day, do a bunch of wipeouts, and you're basically getting no resources for it, when at the end of the day, you could have naturally pushed to about chapter 4, 5, or 6, and you could have been getting a lot more resources from it. So that is the first thing. Just save those things. And the same applies to, if we go over here to the Arc, I've mentioned these before, but the same thing applies to your boss battles as well, which are down there. This is just a fresh instance, so it's redoing all this stuff, but it applies to your interception. However, your simulation room, feel free to do that at the start of the day, because if you clear the early one, you can always go ahead and clear the next one on your day 1. So it's the intercept room is one that's good to do because you do get experience from clearing that. So that one, don't hold out on that one because you can get some good rewards. So that is the basic summary of that with doing end of day clears on certain things, or it doesn't have to be the end of the day. If you are stuck in your progression, you can always do that. But take into account the next things that I'm going to say before you go ahead and claim your rewards, do your boss battles and stuff like that, because you might be able to push through some extra stages by adjusting your team composition or using manual fighting modes. So with team composition, especially in the early game, now most people will find a massive brick wall around 5-3, 5-6, 5-10, I think it is, like those 3 stages, and you might get stuck earlier if you've had really bad pulls or something like that. But those 3 stages are absolute brick walls, in my opinion, that get really hard unless you start using manual techniques and have the right team composition. Now, with team composition, if you're free to play, you just may not have the characters that you need to progress through stages because you just don't have the damage. Now, what I find, especially in the early stages, when you start getting into chapter 5, chapter 6 and stuff like that, you'll get a lot of stages that are pure DPS checks. You don't need tanks, you don't need healers, you just need all the DPS in the world, and you need to try and nuke them as fast as possible because you will often get timed out. Now, in this, you will often die as well, but I'll talk about how to avoid dying when I talk about manual strategies in a second. So for me, I don't have any healers anyway, so it didn't really bother me either way. But the way I ended up forming my team is by using 3 burst 3 units because they're all DPS units. Now, unfortunately, my only real strong burst 3 unit is Drake. She normally doubles my other damage dealer's damage, even though she is the same level of them. So Maiden and Eula, just not as good in general at this stage. Also in campaign, if you have assault rifle or minigun DPS users, something like Julia or Guillotine or Scarlet, anything like that, if you have them, they're going to be fantastic because not always, but in general, campaign often has a lot of enemies in the mid row, which is where they excel. I don't have any mid row weapons on my team, so that's a bit of a letdown too. But having 3 strong burst 3 DPS units is a really good idea. And I know that you've then got 3 burst 3 skills and you can cycle through only 2, but then you can use them situationally. If you've got someone that does damage to all enemies, then you can use that ability when there's a heap of enemies around. But if there's not a heap of enemies and you've got concentrated damage, maybe you can use a character that has maybe a single target ability or has a narrow range ability. So you can adjust through, but definitely getting more damage dealers in your team is going to be a priority. Now for me, I'm lucky that I pulled Volume. So Volume is super handy because 1, she is an attacker. Even though she's not the greatest attacker in damage sense, she does get the stat weights of an attacker, which is solid. Plus, she is also a buffer, meaning that she is going to buff my team's crit rates every time we go into burst, which is really nice. Now, Lita is probably a better one in this early game stage than Volume, but Volume is probably the second best burst one that you can have. So she's pretty solid in that sense, and she also reduces the cooldowns of my burst skills. So I did get lucky. Volume is a very clutch one to have, or Lita, even better if you have her. But you want something in here in this burst 1 spot that is going to buff your team, ideally, if you have some buffing units, as opposed to just a healer or something like that. And the same goes for your burst 2 unit. I don't want to use something like Diesel because she's not bringing any advantage to my team. I use Signal because, once again, she is another attacker unit, meaning she's got attacker weight. There are definitely better units than Signal, but this is the best that I've got at the moment. On top of that, she is going to do like a narrow range AoE. But the nice thing about this is if the, like say the boss, we're up to the boss and we're trying to kill the boss. If you put the boss in that range, you're going to get that defense decrease while you're in your burst phase as well. So basically, do anything to maximize damage in your team. Ignore heals, ignore tanks, and do that. Now, that's where we're going to get into the next point. And like I said, I got pretty lucky. I got Drake, I got Volume. Even though my other burst 3s are pretty bad, those two can carry pretty hard. But I still hit stages where if I had better DPS units, I'd probably clear them much easier and not get brick walled as much. But, you know, definitely if you've got worse units, some people struggle and they might only have 2 burst 3 units and they're trying to use Rappy as well. It becomes a bit of a struggle. But, you know, eventually, don't worry, even if you had better units, you'd progress a bit further and you would hit a brick wall anyway. So maximize DPS in your team is the first tip. Now, this is early game. Later game, different stages of the game, it may change. You may prioritize healer, you may not want to tank, but at this stage, in the early stage progression, you definitely want to prioritize DPS. So now let's jump over into some combat and take a look at some manual strategies that you can use. So we'll go to the stage I'm up to and we'll see if we can clear through it, and I'll talk you through the strategy first. And so let's jump in here. Hopefully it loads. LD player is still working pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the LD player at the moment. So let's get into it, please. As I say that, it freezes. Come on, LD player, be better. Well, you can't be worse than BlueStacks. That's okay. Let's go. Please. Please. Back in a sec. Nope. Okay. I was going to cut, but we're good. All right. So this next stage, let's jump into this stage and I'll just talk you through my strategies. So here we go. And also if you're leaving the burst skills on auto, you want to consider the order that you're going in. However, you can always change it to manual because burst skills are going to prioritize whoever's first in your team. So for me here, my team is going to prioritize Eula. The reason being, normally early in battles, there's a lot of enemies and she has the full AoE. And then later on, we're down to like maybe the boss or a couple enemies. And that's where Drake's good because she's got a narrow AoE. So that's it. But you can always just put it on manual and change it up. So let's jump in and go into the battle. And I'll pause it and I'll just talk you guys through some stuff. So when we look at manual play, now hopefully this is a stage where I can demonstrate it. But if not, I'll definitely get the points across for you guys. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna pause it quickly. I don't know why it's lagging. Maybe it's because I tried to put it on 120 FPS and it's not handling it. That could be the issue. But basically here, what I want to show you guys is when you get into these stages, especially in chapter 5 and stuff, you'll find certain positions, like certain stages in the battle where like enemies will do massive amounts of damage to your units. Now, sometimes your units framed down the bottom will get like a red flashing around them, meaning there's an incoming attack. Some abilities do that, some abilities don't. And sometimes you'll just get hit with a bunch of abilities, especially if you're playing in portrait mode, it's really hard to see sometimes. But often if you're reusing the same team, and this is where doing retries helps, you can find out exactly what second that damage comes in, and then you can retry, and just before that damage comes in, at that, like the second before it normally comes in, you can put your units into cover, and then you should see that your shield takes the damage instead, and then you can pop back out. And using your shields and cover is going to be vital for getting through these stages when you're trying to maximize damage and you're not bringing healers along for the ride, because you want to get all the damage, because if you don't have the damage, you're going to get timed out, but you also don't want to die, because if your units die, you don't have the damage and you get timed out. So let's just continue this one and we'll have a look. I can't remember this stage. So let's have a quick look, see where we're at. Okay, so there, right now, you can see down the bottom, Maid, who is the far right, she's got this flashing red around her, which means she's going to attack incoming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her into cover, and then it should happen, and you can see now Signal, and there it is. And now Signal's got one coming, and you can see Signal's about to get hit by a jumping robot probably, and there it goes. There goes her shield. So you can see, and now we've got the next one coming. But obviously my cover's broken, and now they're getting shredded because I'm trying to talk through it. But that's where you can see when it's starting to come. So that's when you want to... Sounded wrong in the context of the game. But that's when you want to start to use your cover and go behind and protect yourself. That is a very key thing when you're doing this type of stuff. Now, obviously, they're just nuking me because I'm not attacking, but that is definitely what you want to watch for, is those flashing. Otherwise, if you don't see the flashing, like I said, you can retry the battle, and then you can just wait and see and just basically hold out until they get to that point. Now, another thing you can do, so like, you know, if I just counted the time, I just do it 1 second before duck below, because they do start flashing red a little bit before. So once you do a few tries of this, you'll get used to it. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can put it on manual like this. And so for instance, this one's a bit hard because there's 2 of them going to get attacked. Okay, so for instance, Drake here, she's about to get attacked by one of the jumpies. So there it is. Her attack got done. So she's good. Whoops, I put everyone into cover. So now you can just let it go again, put it back on auto. And be fine. And then as soon as you see it coming again, so this is like the next level of it. So let's just wait, all these animations and stuff. So she's about to get attacked. So I'm going to take her off of auto. And I'm just going to sit on her. Okay, so now volume's going to get attacked. So I put hers on, and now she's lost cover. So it doesn't really matter. Oops, I accidentally put everyone in cover. But you get the point. So now I'm going to go Drake, and I'm going to put her in cover. She's got a bit of shielding left, so she can take that. So now she can go back out, and we can start shooting again. And that's basically what you can do to optimize it, so you're not putting your entire team in cover. It does take a lot more effort and a lot more micromanaging, but it still gets you across the line. Now, the other manual strategy that you can use is sometimes maybe your main DPS or something may be targeting the wrong enemy. And often what you can do is you can manual take over them for a little bit and then put them into a focus range. And then that will be the kind of enemy that they focus on when you have the manual thing happening. So for instance, if I wanted her to focus over on the boss, I can just basically do a few shots on the boss, and then the auto should lock onto the boss, and then we should keep attacking the boss, so that hopefully now my units are going to focus in on that boss and hopefully nuke it. So now she's straight away from the boss because the boss did a jump. So I'm just going to turn her back to the boss because we're just trying to nuke it down. That's our play. And now the auto will continue nuking that boss. Now we're probably going to fail this stage because I was going in between trying to do too many different things. So now we've lost focus on the boss again. So we're going to, whoops, character's dying. So you get the gist of what I'm trying to say is the 2 main things are you can use group cover to avoid damage, or you can watch for single units that are about to take damage, put it on manual mode, and then just click on that unit and don't fire, and then they will avoid that damage. Then you can put it back on auto, put it on manual, find the next unit. So there's a lot of micromanagement, and that's where I say this game is a really nice idle game, because it's not just auto and watch. You can really actually progress a lot faster in the game by playing the game well on manual. So that is pretty much it. I'll obviously have many more videos covering other tips that I think of along the way, but I just thought these were some important ones, especially the team composition and the manual mode fighting, but also those end of day clears. I keep harping on that, but in the early stages, really important. Later stages, it, like, you know, once you're a month in, it doesn't matter. But yeah, and those fast rewards, just keep in mind that has boosted me levels and allowed me to progress, but it's also sacrificed me some summons. So if you're someone that loves summons, don't stress about it. And that final thing that we talked about at the start, which was the spending, you know, just, it's an idle game, and that's the way they operate. So don't get disheartened if you see someone pushing well above you and you think, oh, I've been grinding so hard and I've been doing really good manual play. Just remember, like, experience, dust, and credits are going to do better than your manual plays. So it's a thing. And don't forget, guys, the giveaway's on. $100 giveaway. Be subscribed, leave a comment, and you'll go into the draw. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.